Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on your big break. So if you are someone who has worked really hard towards something or has been in a funk or the status quo for a long time and you're seeking out the leap, the jump, the big break, the fireworks, the big success, this is for you. If you find you enjoy this reading, I encourage you like, subscribe, stick around, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, personal readings, you can visit the link below. It's erritygreen.com/shop. And if you want to check out my other YouTube communities, I'd love to see you over there. Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk, both of which are also linked below. Last but not least, sign up for the newsletter. We can stay in touch between readings there. I'd love to have you. From here, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from today. As always, you are choosing from left to right. So card pile 1, your big break. So what it's looking like for you, card pile 1, is that you are in the space of sort of like mystery, cocooning, deep rest and replenishment, and you've been in this cocoon for a while. I feel like you've been undergoing some deep transformation, some deep healing, cellular healing, program healing. Just that it's kind of like the upgrade, you know, if we were to be able, it kind of reminds me of this kind of matrixy vibe, not you, but just sort of this upgrade that you've been going through where it's almost like you've been sort of set aside and put into this space, not a coffin, but kind of container that kind of looks like that, this receptacle, and just sort of given the space to like upgrade, for everything to get upgraded and online, and for you to truly deeply heal and transform. It feels like there was this really deep healing, soul healing that was underway for you that I know when I'm saying this, you're like, girl, like I know, because it has been intense or it has been immense or it has been taking so freaking long, and you're like ready to bust out, ready to get out, be birthed through the canal, right? Like you're saying the big break. And it's not like you aren't there yet, because that's not implied, but it's like saying, okay, it has been a little while. You haven't undergone this deep healing, but it's almost like you know that's what's been going on at a deep level. You've recognized that this was required. You see the value in the space that was created for you for this upgrade to happen. It was almost like you were being given the nutrients in order to be able to create or achieve whatever it is that you were ultimately trying to create or achieve, whatever vision you had for yourself, idea, success, shift, whatever it was you were seeking. It's giving you this sort of blueprint, template, wiring to be able to experience it. So you have been like 6 feet under doing the healing and the clearing and all the things required for this profound transformational upgrade, the upgrade of your life. The upgrade that probably feels so deep and so trying and so intense and immense. But ultimately what happens is because it was so deep and so profound and so altering, you're also now able to experience the other side of that too. So as deep as it was, right, that's as expansive as it is. And as low as it went, that's as high as it goes. It's like, because of that, you are also now able to experience the full spectrum. So whatever vision or idea or success or big break you had in mind for yourself, this has been supporting you to have the roots for this, right? Built from the ground up, to have the foundation, the space, the container to properly hold this vision, to properly hold this level of success. It's like a lot of it had to go because some of the elements of your old identity or whatever was being upgraded. First of all, it was just an agreement, I feel like, that was made with your soul and the contract that you made spiritually to this lineage, to the generational clearing. It just feels like that. Some of you might not resonate with that. That's okay. But for those of you that do, I feel like this was very spiritual in nature. Like you said, all right, I'm going to go down and I'm going to incarnate as this being, and I'm going to help this lifeline, this lineage, this ancestry or whatever, clear and heal a lot of this stuff. It's going to help me karmically. It's going to help them karmically. Perfect fit. Great. I'm also going to achieve XYZ, right? So this was something that was more or less planned or destined for, that feels familial and ancestral. as well as something that is supporting the foundation for what is to come, who you are to become, who you already are. But there were some upgrades here because it almost feels like, so I'm getting so much at the same time. So it almost feels like, had you not had this rewiring, there might have been more of an inclination towards sabotage. The part of us that doesn't feel safe, the part of us that feels threatened by love and success, the part of us that wants to protect us and protect us from pain and hurt, that part can come up and take over and almost become overpowering and like a force of its own and derail us and throw us off and prevent success, to sabotage success. And I feel like that could have been possible for some of you had you not had this deep clearing, this deep healing that was underway. So I feel like there was that spiritual component. It was also required in order to be able to hold this vision. There was something else there. I'm just going to see if it comes to me. So the energy I'm getting, and this isn't exactly what had been coming through earlier. So much was coming through and I was trying to capture what I could and then trying to trace my steps back and find it again. But it's almost like Sleeping Beauty. If you're familiar with the fairy tale or the movie, you aren't, please Google it. But it's basically a woman who ends up, now in this case, she was poisoned or cursed, but in your situation, it's more of like you slept for this long while so that once you awakened, you would be sort of primed and prepped for what was to come. And or it was almost like this retreat, this sabbatical. Like I don't want you to feel like, oh, all this stuff had to be done in order for a blank to happen. Because again, some of this was already destined and sort of contracted, like, okay, I'm going to do this, committed to anyway. However, it feels like there was this deep sleep that allowed you a retreat, that allowed you a sabbatical. It was supposed to be a chapter of your life, an era, a season, a phase of your life, and it's one that will come to a close, that will give way to the next thing. We're saying your big break, the big break is related because it feels like there was a transformation that happened during this deep sleep that then makes this big break available to you. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here. Yeah, so as a result of this deep rest, you're able to, I feel like, we could call it a spiritual awakening, or what's the other term? A deprogramming and unlearning. I don't love those phrases. I'm just trying to give words to what I'm feeling. But there's something here about when you awake from this deep rest or this deep sleep or the sabbatical, it's almost like you're a new person. And it's interesting too, because as I'm sharing this and we're in the reading, obviously, it's like the other version, like there doesn't want to be a comparison or links. Like I'm being kind of not forced, but very much like supported to like not necessarily say that the sabbatical was for the big break, because it wasn't so linear like that, where it's like, oh, this had to happen, so this could happen. It's like the deep rest and the healing was just as valuable and equally like profound and necessary, whatever, as any big break or success you would ever have. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, this was just for that, because at the spiritual level, it was saying like the deep healing is just as beautiful and profound as the big break. Like they're kind of one and the same, right, in terms of value. And the other side of it too is it's almost like there doesn't need to be a comparison as to who you were before and who you are going to be now, and what was gained and what was lost, what had to be given up and what didn't serve you. Like kind of like all that's BS. It's almost like whoever you are now or who you're coming out as now is who you are or who you are meant to be. There's like no need to compare or look back and forth or be like, okay, this one was less confident, this was more insecure, and this one's more confident. Because it's like, yes, that stuff happens, and yes, there was a boost. Like something is happening here for you. You are different. You are born anew, more or less. And yet, who you were before, again, it feels like both are equally valuable. Right? It wasn't like the one before was a problem and now this one's better, and you had to let that one go to become this one. It's like both were valuable identities, and now this one is you. After this deep healing and deep rest, it's almost like this retreat into nature, this disappearance into nature. Not that it had to look like that or be that, and I think for most of you it probably wouldn't, but something along those lines, and kind of like the Sleeping Beauty, where she's living away in a cottage, like she disappears from the castle or something. Right? I don't know all the details, but she's in a castle and she's kind of just nurtured and supported by nature and like the dwarves and all these little beings that live out there. And eventually she finds herself to wake up and be a princess, and she's like, what? So it's kind of like that, where it's like there really wasn't an A that led to B and a B that led to C and like the way that our minds like to make it all. It was like the deep healing and sabbatical was what it was, and now she wakes up a princess. Awesome. Okay, so it's something like that. But you more or less are born anew as, we could say it's a higher vibration, but it's a more authentic version of you, a truer version of you you've shed some layers, you awakened some layers, and you are, I mean, this card, I want to share it because I think it's relevant. You are the oracle. Okay. And so I think that visual might mean something to some of you. The words might mean something to some of you. So I do want to share that. But that's who you awaken as. Sleeping Beauty awakes as a princess, right? I think. Your awakening is that pillar of light. So through this deep healing, through this deep rest, you were able to contact some deeper spiritual knowledge, some deeper spiritual awakening, this deeper awareness of truth, of emotions, and you were just able to gain a whole new depth and breadth of knowledge and wisdom that is now going to support you. Like, it's almost like it's the ground beneath your feet, but it's not only the ground beneath your feet that supports you, it's also something that I do believe you're able to support others with because of this strong, firm foundation that you have built sort of brick by brick through this deep rest, through this deep, intense sabbatical. You've been able to come to a very profound connection with yourself, source, God, great spirit, cosmos, universe, but it feels like it's completely through you. It's almost like it was never, you were seeking something outside of you, or like, it might have come in these forms, but the energy is like you've realized it all comes through you. It's almost like you connected to you. Is you connected to source? Is you connected to God? Is you connected to great spirit? Is you connected to Mother Earth, to God, to nature? It's like, oh, like that's it. Like you become the source, as opposed to, oh, I have to go outside to connect with Earth, and I have to pray to connect with God, or I have to meditate, connect with great spirit. You realize, oh, it's all inside of me. There is something that's relevant to that. You amass a really incredible, profound, and deep spiritual understanding as a result of this sabbatical. Let's see what else is here. So the energy is, you've gone through this deep rest, this deep awakening. Some of you, it feels like, I don't want to say coma because I feel like that gives the wrong impression. Some of you could have been through something like that. However, it feels sort of like that energy, whether or not you went through that medically or biologically, and not to make a spiritual awakening sound like it's as bad or as intense or as profound as a real medical biological coma. So please take this with a grain of salt and recognize what I'm trying to convey here. But there is something in nature of that where it's like maybe you felt stunted, or maybe you didn't feel like yourself, or maybe you felt alone, or maybe you felt isolated, or maybe you felt like you were on your own, or that nobody could hear you, or that you were away in this oblivion. It might have felt like that, even if it wasn't like that. And this was all purposeful in order, again, to amass this really great spiritual understanding, this great connection to yourself. And it's almost like this wisdom of life or something like that, that you're able to tap into and connect with. So for some of you, you are the oracle may very well be literal. This could be figurative. This could be metaphorical. This could be just your light and who you are and how you shine now. But for some of you, you may have gained something that you'll end up sharing in your work, whether explicitly or implicitly. Some of you, to speak to the explicit meaning, you could end up a writer or a poet, or you write a book about this experience, or something comes through, you're able to channel. There's something here for some of you that is explicit in that way. And for the remaining of you, it's figurative and or metaphorical, and that you are the oracle, even if it's not something that you're not directly channeling or writing something. That pillar of light is still relevant for you. So let's see what else is here. I feel like you're being beckoned, and you will be beckoned. You're wondering, the big break, you will be beckoned. The time is right. I feel like you're already being beckoned toward your calling, toward this next chapter. It's almost like you're not still asleep in the receptacle, i.e. coffin, like Sleeping Beauty was. You have heard the call and you're walking toward it. So you might not be there yet, but you already have gained some movement. You might not have noticed, or you might have noticed, but there has been some advancement. It's like you're still asleep there. Feels like you have progressed. Maybe you haven't landed it, which is why you're here and you're asking about it, but you've left that behind. It's almost like now you're on that quest and searching for that next thing, but you are being beckoned, and you've left that space of the sabbatical or the retreat or the coma or whatever it felt like or was, and now you're moving forward. And it's saying there was this deep rest, and this deep rest was you traversing your own subconscious, you traversing all of your deep emotional fields, you traversing your past and your conditioning and your programming and your subatomic layers, and the parts of you that were built in past lifetimes, and the parts of you that were built through your ancestry and your DNA, and the parts of you that were built through this lifetime, through your younger years, through your early adulthood. It's like you have the space, the time, the opportunity to really traverse a lot of this and go through it, unpack it layer by layer by layer, and simply look at it and get to know yourself really deeply, truly well. And then let's see here. Again, this was something that was always going to happen for you. It was always something that was going to happen, like inevitable. Let's say like it was like that. It was destiny. Now on the flip side or other side, or at least related to that, is your big break is inevitable. And that's what wants to be the final message here. The big break is inevitable. There's no avoiding it. There's no not doing it. There's nothing in particular that you have to do to achieve it. It's like there's like this calling and you are progressing. You've already left behind that sleep, that slumber. You're progressing, you're moving toward it, and you can't help but find it. You can't not find it. It is there. It is waiting for you. It is yours. It is predestined. It is ordained. It is inevitable. Just like this deep sleep that you went to, that was to through the kind of walk through the valley of your own shadow of deaths to really get to your depths, right? And uncover what you are made of. And now you are venturing out toward the great horizon, the new frontier. And that's where you find that big break. You are very much on the way, if not more than half the way there. You're being beckoned, you follow the call, you have answered the call, and it is on the horizon. So card pile 1, if this resonates, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. Go ahead, sign up for the newsletter. That way we can stay in touch in between readings. It's linked just below. Join the other YouTube communities or channels. You can subscribe for Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk. Last but not least, if you want a private reading, if you want to get to know me, my work, please visit erritygreen.com/shop or find the link below. Thank you, card pile 1. All right, card pile 2, your big break. So right off the bat, this is about something that I think you are holding on to. The big break is not elusive and running from you. It's not some enigma that you're having to chase down and like disappears. You might think that, or that it's never showed up or come for you, has never shown up or come for you. But I feel like you have been nervous. It's like the world stage is right there. The stage is right there. You can leave it anytime you want. The opening is there. The door is there. And you're choosing to sit right there at the door. You know, you're choosing to not unveil yourself. You're choosing not to reveal yourself. You're choosing not to leave behind your safety, your comfort, what's familiar. It's like, oh, but this feels safer, and oh, this feels cozy, and oh, this feels so good, and it's so easy, and it's normal, and it's like, you might not even realize that you are siding with your comfort zone, right? Except you are, and then it's like the thing that feels like kind of cozy and easy and commonplace. It's like that stuff is the comfort zone, and I think part of this, and I think you recognize this, and yet it's here, so we're going to talk about it, is some insecurity, some self-doubt, some questioning yourself, wondering what people will think of you. Oh, what will they say? Or what will they think of me? Or will I be liked? It's like Sally Field, if you are aware of Sally Field, again, aging myself as I always do, where she won an Academy Award at some point. And she was like, you like me. You really like me, right? It's like that kind of energy where it's like you go out there and you're like concerned about, it doesn't feel like an overly concerned, but it feels like, will they like me? Will they not like me? How will this go? So there's something there about you holding yourself back. It's like the stage is right there. The lights are shining down. It's almost like when there's a stage and everyone kind of huddles out on the side of the stage and there's that spotlight on the center stage. You're right there on the side of the stage and the light is shining right here and you can step out anytime. You just haven't yet. And it's because of your own self-doubt, your own insecurity, your own second guessing, your own questioning. And the energy is like, if you can get, it's almost like within the energy, like your energy field or within the energy, if you can get into it of really owning yourself and being at peace with yourself, it's like you, boom, materialize, you're on the stage. Because to you, you're like, you might even be saying, well, I am ready. And of course I have some second guesses or thoughts, but doesn't everybody? And, it's not, some of you are like, yeah, girl, I get it. I'm not ready. And like, I'm with you. And then some of you are all like, well, yeah, but I do have those thoughts, but it doesn't really hold me back. And I kind of do the things. So like, what do you mean? What are you getting at? Because I feel like of course I have doubts, but I still always, I'm ready. I want to do the thing, right? Where's my big break? It's like you say you're ready, but energetically, are you? Because if you were, you'd already be on the stage. It's almost like the universe, life, whatever is responding to us second by second by second, And so it's like, this is interesting because this isn't even something that I would say I was previously aware of consciously, but it's like this, it's like we have what was being presented to us is an instantaneous reflection of where we're at within our energy field. Now, obviously we have different moods and different parts and different attitudes and things like that, but it's like, we might be able to say we're ready, but are we actually ready? Because what we're experiencing in front of us is going to be telling us the truth of whether we are ready or not. And then can we make that okay, right? Can we make it okay that we're not ready then? Can we make a home right here on the side of the stage until we are ready? And then boom, we'll be ready and whoosh, spotlight is on us. But That's the energy that I'm getting here, where it's like about the energy and being in the energy. Like if you were in the energy, you'd be in the spotlight. And if you're not, you're kind of huddling on the side of the stage. You're not far away from the stage. It's not like you're in the audience, right? It's not like you're behind the scenes, like behind the stage production, and you're in the back at dress rehearsal. You're very close, right? You're right there. It's just something in terms of your own self-questioning, self-doubt, insecurity, wondering if you can do it, wondering if they'll like you. There's some kind of questioning, narrative, program, conditioning. It sits right there to where that spotlight hasn't yet gone boom kind of thing. Let's see what else is here. Yeah, you know, I feel like you're still sort of diving through and sifting through the layers of your attachments to approval and your fears of rejection and your second guessing of yourself. You're finding all the areas of yourself that you don't still love and accept yourself. This is very much a natural part of the human experience, of the soul's journey. So there's nothing wrong with it, right? We don't want to criminalize this or make it wrong or make it bad. This isn't something to be ashamed of. Everybody has to traverse this. Everybody has to journey through this. But right now, it seems like you're still sifting through those areas where you still are attached. And that's great. That's good news, because that's what you're meant to be looking at, is really holding space and softening these areas where you need to feel approved of, where you don't want to feel rejected, where rejection by someone else makes you reject yourself, right? Where you're valuing someone and their opinion or approval over you more than you value your own. And it's like a part of the work is facing that and then allowing yourself to feel it, because it's almost like, well, so what? Okay, so they didn't accept you. Feel that, grieve it, and then allow yourself to move on, as opposed to other examples could be ruminating over it and worrying about it and concerning yourself over it and wondering and analysis paralysis and oh my gosh, and then not doing something and questioning yourself and then not letting yourself move forward on something because what will they think and what did they think before, right? That's a different energy than what we said, where you face it, accept it, grieve it, and move on. Do you see the difference? The other version is denying it altogether and not even being willing to look at it. Oh, I'm not self-doubting. I'm not insecure. Oh, and I don't care what they say. You know, and it's like when you just start neglecting and overlooking the actual truth, then you're ignoring what's there and nothing can ever change, right? So there's something here about, okay, if you feel that way, or if you feel insecure, allow yourself, instead of just like glossing over it mentally and just being like moving on, you know, or not even giving it attention. It might be something that you actually face and accept and be like, okay, they don't accept me, and okay, they don't like me, and what now? And so what? Sorry, I'm just trying to find a way to get comfortable here. And so you're really learning where you have neglected yourself, because ultimately it's what it comes down to, right? Other people can't approve of or reject us or deny us or whatever, or exclude us or single us out. But it really comes down to our relationship with ourselves, because can they really do anything? We're inside of our own skin, right? So that can they really do anything unless we've already rejected or denied ourselves? Of course not. Because ultimately they can say whatever, but all we ever have to face within ourselves is our own uncomfortable emotions, their own rejection or not, right? Is our own approval or not. So we have those experiences of rejection or lack of acceptance, or we believe that someone has said something or rejected us or denied us or not approved of us, right? It's us facing ourselves. And I say us because we're all on the same journey. And I want you to recognize that this isn't a problem, because people could be like, oh, well, that's why I'm not hitting my big break. It's all my fault, you know, as usual. I mean, it always is, right? Us taking responsibility for ourselves. But at the end of the day, when we're experiencing those kinds of experiences, we face it, we acknowledge it, and we see where we have rejected and not approved of ourselves as a result of that trigger or catalyst. This is ultimately then about you and your own lack of rejection and love for yourself. Wherever you are devoid of love, it's being of self-love, it's being reflected in your external reality to show you that, so you can then bridge that gap and find that love for yourself. And if you can't, grieve that stuff up and out, baby. Grieve it up and out. So, all of that to say, you're seeing where you are rejecting yourself, not accepting yourself, so that you can bridge that gap and love yourself even where nobody else could, and where nobody else might not ever, where nobody else will. Good, you can love yourself, because ultimately nobody can reject you unless you have rejected yourself. Nobody can deny you unless you have denied yourself. Nobody can neglect you unless you have neglected yourself. Why? Because it's not that feeling of, oh, okay, it's just a direct reflection of what you're doing to yourself. It's that when that trigger or catalyst or whatever enters your field, you can either accept it as true or decline it as a falsehood, because you love yourself enough to not agree to or subscribe to that lack of acceptance of yourself. Does that make sense? So you're learning where there's been a lack of love, where there's been attachment to approval and or belonging, and you're seeing the things in the way and your energy of that spotlight. Okay, and it's saying you are going to achieve what you want to achieve. There is this message here. I'm going to show it to you. You're going to achieve it, period. There's no way of getting around it. You're going to achieve it. This is just your initiation. This is just you having to cross the threshold. This is earning your stripes, right? And it's not just about earning your stripes like, oh, you have to like put in your time and do the work and hustle and grind, all that stuff. It's like putting in the work within yourself, priming and prepping yourself for the spotlight. It's not like you're even doing it for the spotlight. It's like you prime and prep yourself and then just the spotlight comes. Because if we're doing it for the spotlight, usually there's somewhere we're kind of like we're insisting on something that is there. It can create more of a resistance and a problem for it showing up for us. You're just doing it and then it pops up, it shows up. It's a natural, effortless, organic process. You do achieve the thing. This is your initiation. It is underway. Again, I feel like you're right there on just the side of the stage. And as soon as you are, it's like you're fully owning you. Basically, you filled all the gaps where you've once rejected or denied yourself or made yourself less to belong, right? Made yourself less in order to get someone else's approval. Made yourself small, denied yourself, all those little ways. It's like as you're filling those gaps, just one day, boom, the spotlight is going to come for you. It's just going to manifest and materialize. Yeah. So again, what wants to come through here for you, card pile 2, and we're talking about your big break. A lot of this has to do with your childhood. Now, for some of you, it might go back previous lifetimes or to being a star seed. If you can relate and connect to that, that's something that you subscribe to or that matters to you. But in one way or another, you might have experienced a lack of acceptance in your child home, in your family home, your biological family's home, wherever you were raised with your caregivers, authority figures. But this also could have to do with past lifetimes and this ongoing theme of a lack of acceptance. But one way or another, for most of you, it feels like childhood. And for some of you, it feels like the light worker thing or the starseed thing, where it's like you come from another planet, you automatically feel like an outsider. And it's like you already feel like an outsider, and then you experience that as a reflection. You actually experience that in your soul reality because it's how you walked in feeling. And then you continue to get affirmed that you're an outsider your whole life. But in truth, you always were an outsider. So good, own it, because what you came here for, to do something different and to be something different. But again, a lot of this is you healing your childhood wounds. This is about you healing your lack of acceptance of yourself because of what was mirrored to you or shown to you or told to you or conditioned in one way or another. As a young child, you believe that you were wrong, bad, ugly, meant to be alone, misunderstood, the wallflower, the outsider, the outlander. You know, in one way or another, some of you might know that show. And so in one way or another, you have come to feel like you didn't belong and you weren't good enough and nobody would ever understand you. Those are the kinds of threads. When you trail it back, it's going to bring you back to your early childhood and you're healing those childhood wounds. That's what's happening here. And the time of the era, the season that you've gone through has been sort of parsing this out and going through that reflection and self-examination to see those areas, or again, you might experience rejection out here, outright rejection that's explicit and obvious and told to you and or implied where you have perceived it. And sometimes it hasn't even been real. You just assumed it because, again, right, that's your template. That's what you believe. And those are sort of trailing you back on the thread of this lack of acceptance that brings you all the way back to childhood, to the original wounding, so you can go to the source and pull it up by its root. It's about you loving and accepting yourself once and for all. You are good enough. You are all you ever needed. No one else ever needs to tell you that, show you that, decide that, determine or discern that. It is ultimately all up to you. This has to do with making peace with yourself. That making peace with yourself, that self-acceptance, that self-love. And it's not there's no ending to this journey. It is an infinite journey. So you don't have to feel like, oh, I have to like be perfect and fix all of this and mold and shape myself into this perfect specimen, enlightened being in order to have my big break. That's not what it is. It's like as you're sort of picking up the pieces and going through this journeying and traversing some of this self-examination and moving just on the path of this, it boom shows up. It's not something that's like you have to seek for or, seek out or on a quest for, and I must heal so that I can realize this. No, this is about you and yourself and your acceptance for yourself or not. And as you are finding peace with yourself, right? And as you've made peace with yourself, the big break, boom, happens for you. So, and it's already on its way, right? We saw achievement, but this is your initiation. You are having to do the initiation just like everybody else, just like anyone else who's ever been in the spotlight or found themselves in the fishbowl. No different from any other successful person. You're just walking a very similar journey, the hero or heroine's quest. This is how it goes, quote unquote, earning your stripes, but it's more of like earning the heart, you know, and the strength and the fortitude and the knowingness of self and the self-love, the self-acceptance, making peace with yourself so that you can be seen. Card Pile 2, this is your reading. If you enjoyed this reading, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. Do subscribe to my other YouTube communities and channels. Both are linked below. Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk. Also, sign up for the newsletter. That way we can stay in touch between readings. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, personal readings, you can visit erritygreen.com/shop or find the link below. Thank you, Card Pile 2. Card Pile 3, we're talking about your big break. So Card Pile 3, right off the bat, you are a creative being, perhaps an artistic being. You either live for or live in your creative expression, or you long to do so. Many of you are artists, many of you are musicians, many of you are healers, creatives. I do feel creative as a pretty significant variable for this pile, whether that's performance art or singing, dancing, all being performance art, some form of entertainment, art in the form of writing and or painting and or images or graphic design or whatever. I feel creativity is pretty big, significant for this pile. And talking about your big break, and your big break has to do with this. It has to do with following your heart's calling, following your heart's whispers. It has to do with following that creative channel, that creative flow. It's like the creativity will guide us where we need to go. Your creativity isn't necessarily trying to get anywhere, but it is trying to express itself, produce something, bring things to fruition. And as we do that, other things can result. So when you ask about your big break, is your art trying to be seen or recognized or receive fame and fortune? No, but your art is wanting to express itself. And as it so does, this creative channel, this creative flow, ultimately, eventually guides you to the right people, places, things, consumers, customers, whatever, that result in this greater calling of yours and this greater horizon, this big break that you seek. The question is, have you given yourself the green light? Have you said yes to yourself? Have you gone all in? I feel like yes for some of you, no for some of you. And then for some of you, especially those who are saying yes, who have said, okay, yes, I have gone on all in, or I'm right in the process of going all in. You're still hitting up against some limitation with yourself, where you're doubting yourself, questioning yourself, wondering if this is the right path, wondering if it'll work out, wondering if it will result, or question like, will this actually produce something? You know, is this really meaningful and valuable to me? Like, will this be a fruitful effort or endeavor of mine? So I feel like a lot of that energy where it's like you've answered the call, but not fully, because and there's nothing wrong with it. They're shameful. And I felt like I've said that in each of these piles, but I think there's a purpose for that, because all of this is part of the natural growth process. It's like the whole point. We're meant to be facing our shadows and integrating parts of ourselves and doing the necessary work as we go. That is the initiation. That is the healing, right? That is the integration. That is the earning our stripes. It's having to face that within ourselves, right? I always talk about slaying the demons and the dragons on the way. You know, it's the hero and heroine's journey, where it's like we all have to do this. This is part of maturity and part of growth. So there's nothing wrong that you're questioning yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a problem. But it is saying, like you're saying, where's the big break? And then the spirit then is saying, well, have you answered the call? And some of you know, so that's why the big break hasn't occurred, number one. And then others of you who have said yes, have you fully stepped into those shoes though, right? And I think the rest of you who did say yes, are like, maybe not, right? When you're like, when I'm honest, no, but you know, touche, right? So it feels like that, where it's like, someone who has said, it's almost like the energy of, and again, there's no problem with this, but it's like the energy of someone who is seated like me, right? Who's saying, why did, you know, oh, I really wanted to do that marathon. I wanted to win that marathon. And it's like, well, I didn't stand up. And like, let's just say there's a marathon going on right outside of my house. Well, gosh, I wanted to do that. Or I wish I could have won. And yet I haven't gone out there on the marathon and actually run it yet. I haven't even prepped for it. Now, for some of you guys have been doing the work, you have stepped into it. But it does feel like the energy of when we step into the calling, it's not like it's immediately achieved, realized, or materialized. Once we step into the calling, it's like the calling calls us. The calling builds us. It reminds me of boot camp. Like in the military, they break you down to build you up. And you won't necessarily be broken down. It doesn't feel like that. It feels more of like you will be built into, though, your highest potential, all that you are, all that you came to be, who you were born to be, who you came here to be, the shoes you were meant to fill. It's like the shoes you're meant to fill, you're not going to be able to fit into at the age of, say, 16 or 24. Why? Because most people don't fully achieve or realize or materialize or whatever, manifest their purpose and complete their life journey at 24. Some people do, right? And they do pass away. But most people do not. And unless you're trying to act like you're dying tomorrow, you don't want to achieve your full purpose yet, okay? We're not done. So the point, though, is a lot of people at 24 can be like, hey, where's my big break? Like, why hasn't my purpose been materialized? It's like, well, because you're 24, because you're 13, because you're 9, and that's why. And so the whole point is like, it's not even just about winning the marathon. You have to go out there. And long before you even step up to the start line, you have to prep for months and months and months. And then you have to get the right gear and get up. And then you have to sign up. And then you have to pay. You pay your dues. And then you're at the start line and then go. And then you still have to run the whole marathon before you even hit the finish line. So it's like sometimes that question, when is my big break, or what's going on my big break, is the cart before the horse. It's like asking for the cart, and yet we haven't even gotten horses yet, right? So there is something here like you are going to be called and called forth and expanded into, and you're going to become the person that fills the shoes before this big break occurs for you. And I don't want you to feel like this question is premature, because it kind of has that energy, and that's like the kind of answer that's being given if I were to give it blunt and straightforward. But it's not really that energy. It's more of like, this is simply just what's required. This is the nature of the beast. This is the initiation. It's like, for most of us, we don't just get to show up and be like, I'm here. For most of us, we have to walk the journey from Podunk Town, blah, blah, blah. We'll say USA because that's what I'm familiar with. I'm here. And then it's like we're, in the desert of the West with hardly any water before we reach an oasis. And we're like, oh, thank God. Water, greenery. I will live through this. And then after that, it's like, oh, we got to walk this desert again. Okay. And it's like, right. And then you show up and you're like, okay, I'm here. It's like, you have to fill the shoes long before you get the shoes, if that makes sense. So it's like recognizing, of course, the big break will be yours, and it is yours. And it's what you came here for. And it's a part of you and your destiny. It's inevitable, but you will be grown into, matured into, supported into actually becoming the person who achieves and experiences the dream. Okay. So let's see what else is going on here. So I feel like for some of you, you have probably been through a time of challenge or depression or grief or loss or something like that. It could be over the recent period of time. It feels recent. It feels like either you're going through it now or it feels recent. And I feel like anything that is underway, you're being guided and shared with, that this is a part of your path, right? This is a part of your healing. It's bringing you right where you want to go. Because we can have it's natural. We have this tendency to question what happens to us, especially when it feels bad or wrong. But it's saying like, no, there's a gift in this. There's a hidden blessing. There is a blessing in disguise here. And this does have to do with, and I feel like your hurts, your heartaches, again, for this being a very creative pile, this might not be for everybody, but I feel like for many of you, you are meant to bring light to the challenges of the human experience, to the heartaches, to the heartbreaks. Honestly, it reminds me of like country music, right? Where every sad song that's ever been made, it's like they're able to sing it in a way that either it feels beautifully melancholy and or they alchemize it into, okay, well, I dug my keys into the side of his pretty little souped up 4-wheel drive. It's like, well, no, nobody wants to have a cheating ex, but if they do, they're going to take that right for, carve your name. And I just do that because it's fun. But the point is like they're able to you're bringing something that might feel low, heavy, negative, whatever. And I don't even like those kinds of terms because I don't think it does it justice, because again, you're actually bringing beauty to that. So for those of you who feel like artists or creatives or whatever in that pile, recognize that what you go through, your challenges can be fuel for your art, for your creative passion, for your creative expression, for your creative flow. And I feel like you're meant to offer that to other people. Like it doesn't just become a blessing for you, it becomes a blessing for others, right? So this is fairly specific. So this might not be for everybody, but it is here. So I want to share on it. Again, it's like that country song where many country songs are all songs. All music has to do with love and loss, heartache and heartbreak. I mean, this is how it works, right? That's how life is. The ups and downs, the lefts and rights. And so, but it brings a sort of levity. It brings a sort of beauty. It brings an appreciation for the human experience, for the triumphs and the tragedies. Art does that. Art gives us a way to speak about our pain and experience our pain in a way that feels healing. It becomes medicine. So for some of you who are creative or artists or healers, I think that's going to land for some of you where this is a part of your purpose in your journey. If you feel like sometimes you're in the depths of the shallows, right? Or your deep emotional feels, or you're really challenged by your emotions, or you might feel like you go through more than other people. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. If that's your perceived reality, if you're looking around, that's your art. That's what's to become your art. You can use it, and or you can use it in order to your poetry, your writing, your music, whatever that is. And it's meant to be medicine for others too. And that's part of your work. It's to help uplift other people. Your art is meant to help uplift other people. Some of you probably already knew that, no doubt. But I feel like some of you maybe have skirted the edges on it and or wondered again, oh, why do I go through this? Or why do I seem like I go through more challenges than other people? Or what's up with this hard knocks life? Like, I've kind of put in my time, I'm kind of over it or whatever. Or maybe again, it was just that recent season or challenge or phase. And you're like maybe questioning things or questioning life or the path or whatever. And it's like, no, use this. You're meant to use this. You bring light and levity. You're alchemizing your experience into medicine that becomes other people's medicine. Okay, what else is here? Yeah. Again, we talked earlier about your heart, your flow is going to bring you right where you need to go. It's like, I feel like some of you might question your path or wonder about, okay, what do I do? What do I do next? Like, how does this happen? How does that happen? How do I monetize this? How do I actually make this work? How do I make this a path? How do I make this a business? How do I make this a career? How do I make this a livelihood? Your version of those questions might be different. So if you're stating or saying something else to yourself, please know if everything up until now has landed for you, this is still relevant. And it's like, well, it's not really asking those questions that are going to get you anywhere. It's more like follow your heart. Your heart will send you right where you want to go. It will give you that creative flow, the creative passion, the heartache, the heartbreak will bring you right into the center point of what you were supposed to share, of what you were supposed to express, of what you're supposed to give life and love and beauty to and voice to and speak to. There's something here about bringing more appreciation and beauty and emotional sort of recognition to the pain, the sorrows, the tragedies, but even the triumphs of life. Your art can do that in whatever form, in whatever way. It doesn't have to do all of that, but it might very well do some of that. But it's like following your heart here, because your heart's going to have the answer. When you say, oh, how do I monetize this? Or how will it actually work? Or how can I actually build this? Those kinds of more practical questions. I think it's going to be more difficult for you to even foresee a future or to be able to find any clear solutions or answers. This is more about your heart is going to guide you. Your heart is going to guide you. Your creative expression, your creative flow, your creative passions. What are you passionate about? That's going to guide you. What's on your heart? What do you want to express? That's going to guide you. What are you lamenting or going over or going through and navigating in your current life and experience right now? That's what you're going to step into. Okay, so it's like that's informing your process, your creative flow. And then ultimately that's what's going to be seen and viewed and recognized ultimately by other people. But that's going to be what draws you. The more and more you can get in touch with yourself and your own emotional experience and your own journey and be honest about your journey and own your journey, whether it's explicitly or just through your art. You don't have to be living in a fishbowl and have everyone know everything about your life if you don't choose. Perhaps that's your art, perhaps it's not. People can share about their truth and their reality and their expression through dance, through song, through painting, through music. It does not have to be spoken explicitly. No one needs to know all your stories. You don't have to feel like you have to put all that out there. However, for some of you, you will, and that will be your art. All of that is relevant, right? You get to decide how it applies to your circumstances, to your conditions. Yeah, so we got this, having gone through a challenge recently and or in general in terms of your life and wondering, gosh, a hard knock life over here. An artist is meant to transmute this. An artist is here to bring shadow into light, to go into the underworlds and traverse and bring out the gifts and the jewels from the underworld. An artist is meant to, this is what this is saying, right? The creatives are meant to take metal or straw and turn it into gold, basically. It's like that is the journey and the job of an artist. And so it's like, yes, maybe you experience a hard knock life. Yes, but you've also been given this gift. So you use the gift and alchemize it, turn this into medicine. This is medicine for yourself, for others. That becomes a portal for you, also for others. And obviously this is about your big break. So your big break is following this artistic flow, becoming your full artist if you haven't already, really stepping into those shoes, filling those shoes and following your heart. And allowing that to be expressed through you, which will bring you where you're meant to be. Now, I will say, so your art not only is healing for you, but healing for other people. And as you, whatever your creative expression is, whatever your artistic expression is, whether in word form, art, a painting, whatever, drawing, you all know what your art is. Creativity can look very different. As a coach, I consider myself very creative, and as a writer as well, but I build programs. These are containers that hold people for 6 months at a time, sometimes less, sometimes more, but it's like there's tons of creative energy in that space, and what's created to hold these people as they traverse and go through a particular journey that's intended toward a specific destination. It's like, that's creativity. So you don't have to deny your creativity. If I'm saying that it's not resonating, take a deeper look at what you do and try to find what it is that I'm saying that applies to you uniquely. But anyway, ultimately, this brings on emotional cleansing for you and emotional cleansing for those who have also experienced it. So your art as a creative, as an artist, is medicine. It's medicine for yourself. And as you create it, as you process it, as you refine it, and then it becomes medicine for others. You end up supporting other people. Now, the final message that I do want to end with, for those of you who have been through a tough time recently, or even now, and so you're in a hard time, you're also moving forward with your art, and you're in a space of trying to bring this to its fuller expression, trying to tap into your higher potential, recognizing you have a bigger calling, but again, haven't quite filled the shoes. You've said yes to it, but not gone all the way. Some of you have been through a difficult period, and I want to speak to that very briefly here, because there's a message that's specific to this, and it's saying to take care of yourself, nurture yourself, love yourself, and sort of mother yourself, nurse yourself back to life. Ask yourself, how might I nurse myself back to life here? Or how might I just nurse myself right now? If I'm feeling low, if I'm feeling challenged or depressed, or what if I'm moving through something really intense or immense, how can I nurse myself back to health and well-being? Or just how can I nurse myself and allow myself to be right where I'm at? That's how you can take proper and good care of yourself, bring yourself greater nourishment, and then you'll find yourself ready and alive again and available for additional creative expression. That specific message is going to be unique to only some of you, but I did want to share it because it is here, because some of you are going through a deep, dark healing period right now as we speak, while some of you are speaking more to the themes of your overall life, and we talked about what you're going to do with that. Your alchemy, your art is alchemy. You're meant to turn it into gold. And then that leads right ultimately to your big break. But for some of you, for most of you who are on card pile 3, the big break is happening. The more and more you fill those shoes and go through that space of initiation, that journey like we talked about, the closer you'll get to that big break, okay? You're meant to be here. You're meant to be a healer. Trust your art, trust your process, trust your flow. This does bring you to where you want to go. All right, card pile 3, if this lands for you, resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, my work, personal readings, you can visit erritygreen.com/shop or press the link below. I do have 2 other YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime, Wise Women Talk. You can subscribe over there. Last but not least, do sign up for the newsletter. That way we can stay in touch in between readings. Thank you, card pile 3.